I found my wife's affair with her best friend's husband, and now we're fighting over a $350, $0 inheritance she secretly claimed after I found out she drained our account to pay for their lavish divorce hotel stay. How do I prove she's been deceitful all along? Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons, with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd end up here, but life has a way of throwing you into the deep end when you least expect it. It all started with little signs that I brushed off at first, things like Sarah, my wife, acting strangely distant, hiding her phone more than usual, and suddenly having urgent meetings at odd hours. We'd been married for 10 years, and I thought I knew her inside out. But then, out of nowhere, the biggest bombshell hit me. I found out she was cheating on me with her best friend's husband, Jason. It all unraveled so fast. One evening, I was supposed to meet her for dinner after work. I got home early, something I rarely did, and decided to surprise her. I unlocked her phone out of habit, something I'd never done before, and that's when I saw the messages. It was a flood of them, flirty, suggestive, downright intimate. They were planning secret meetups, talking about how hot they made each other feel, and even joking about how she was so tired of my boring ass. That moment hit me like a freight train. My stomach dropped, and I felt like the floor was falling away beneath me. I didn't say a word at first. I just sat there staring at her phone, trying to process what I'd just seen. But the signs had been there for months, I realize now. She started dressing differently, buying new lingerie, staying late at work, and saying it was for extra hours. She was secretive about her phone, deleting texts, and whenever I asked about her mood swings, she'd brush me off with a sharp, dismissive tone. I was stupid, I guess. I wanted to believe she was just stressed or busy. But deep down, I sensed something was wrong. That night I waited until she was asleep, then I went through her emails and social media. That's when I discovered the full extent of her betrayal. She'd been secretly claiming a $350, $0 inheritance from her grandmother's estate, something I never knew about, funneling it into her accounts without telling me. She'd also drained our joint account to pay for a lavish divorce hotel stay with Jason, planning to run off with him after she'd gotten her hands on that money. She lied about everything, acted like she loved me, and was just a victim of her bad choices. But I knew better. I knew she'd been lying to me from the start. The worst part was the way she lied so effortlessly. When I confronted her the next morning, she acted like I was crazy, calling me paranoid and accusing me of snooping. "You're overthinking things," she snapped, her eyes cold and unrepentant. "I love you, but I need some space. Maybe we just need some time apart." That was her way of spinning it, like I was the one in the wrong for catching her. She even called me insecure, like I was imagining things. But I wasn't imagining anything. I saw the texts. I saw the bank statements. I saw the receipts from the hotel. She was cheating, she was lying, and she was planning her escape. I felt a mix of shock, rage, and heartbreak. How could she do this to me after 10 years? How could she betray everything we built over something so fleeting, Jason, her best friend's husband? I was furious but also devastated. I'd trusted her with everything. Our house, our savings, our future. And she'd been secretly stealing from us, lying to my face and planning to run off with another man. I knew I had to do something. Couldn't just let her walk away with the inheritance, with my life savings, and with her lies. That's when I started planning my revenge. I didn't want her to get away with it. I wanted her to feel the pain she'd caused me, to see her realize that I wasn't some pushover. I began digging into her financials, gathering evidence of her deceit, bank statements, emails, even recordings of her conversations. I knew she thought she was clever, hiding her tracks, but I was already one step ahead. She'd underestimated me, and I was about to show her just how much her lies could cost her. I wasn't sure exactly what I'd do yet, but one thing was clear. I wasn't going to let her get away with this without paying a price. I had to make her see that betrayal always comes with consequences. She played her game, but I was about to turn the tables. And when I did, she'd realize just how deep she'd screwed up. Would you like me to continue with the next part? After I collected all the evidence, bank statements, emails, and those secret texts, I felt a strange mix of calm and fury. It was as if I just uncovered a hidden side of her I never wanted to see. Sarah had always been the fiery one, the kind of woman who could be bitchy and dismissive when she didn't get her way, but this was something else entirely. She lied about everything: her supposed inheritance, her lavish plans with Jason, even her feelings for me. I spent the next few days quietly gathering everything, making sure I had proof that would hold up if I ever decided to confront her publicly or legally. I knew she'd deny everything, call me paranoid, accuse me of invading her privacy. But I also knew she'd lied to me repeatedly, and I had to be prepared. I wasn't going to let her spin her stories and walk away without consequences. I wanted her to realize that her actions had repercussions, especially when it came to money and trust. Meanwhile, Sarah's attitude shifted from dismissive to outright bitchy. Every time I brought up the evidence, she'd snap at me, accuse me of spying, call me insecure or jealous. "You're just paranoid," she'd sneer, her voice dripping with disdain. "You think I'm cheating, but it's all in your head. Maybe you're the one who's been unfaithful." That's her favorite line: "Turn the tables, make me doubt myself." She's always been good at gaslighting, twisting the truth so that she looks innocent. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I knew what I saw, and I knew what she was planning. One night she had the nerve to sit me down and say, "I need a break. I just can't do this anymore. I feel suffocated." Her eyes were cold, her tone bitter. I could see her trying to act like the victim, but I wasn't falling for it. I was furious, yes, but also hurt. I never imagined I'd be in this position, fighting over a woman I loved who was secretly planning her escape. I wanted to scream at her, tell her how much she'd betrayed me, but I knew that wouldn't help. Instead, I stayed silent, letting her talk herself into a corner. The thing that really hit me hard was when I found out she'd secretly claimed the inheritance 350 without telling me. She'd been planning to run off with Jason after draining our account for their divorce hotel stay, as she called it. I saw the receipts: luxury suites, private dinners, champagne, all paid for with money she'd hidden away. She lied about everything, even pretending to be a loving wife while she was planning her getaway. That's when I realized she'd been deceitful from the start. She manipulated me, played the innocent victim, all while secretly plotting her escape with Jason. I was furious. Not just because she cheated, but because she stole from us, our savings, our future, everything we'd built. That money wasn't just hers, it was ours, and she had no right to claim it without telling me. I felt betrayed, angry, and deeply hurt. It was like she'd turned my entire life upside down. I kept thinking about how she lied every day, how she pretended to love me, all while secretly planning her new life with Jason. I knew I had to do something. I couldn't just let her walk away with the inheritance and the money she'd drained from us. I had to prove her deceit, show everyone that she'd been lying all along. I started working on a plan to confront her publicly, to get a legal hold on the inheritance, and to make sure she paid for her betrayal. I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without consequences. The more I looked into her plans, the more I realized she'd underestimated me. She thought she was clever, hiding her tracks, convincing everyone she was the innocent victim. But I knew better. I had the evidence, the truth, and the determination to see this through. I wasn't just going to let her take the money and run. I was going to make her realize that her actions had real consequences: financial, emotional, and legal. And so I kept preparing, waiting for the right moment to strike. I knew she'd try to deny everything, call me crazy or jealous, but I was done trusting her. I was done being the fool. She'd lied, schemed, and betrayed me. Now it was time for her to face the music. I wasn't going to let her walk away scot-free. Would you like me to continue with the next part? The day I decided to confront her, everything changed in an instant. I had all my evidence gathered, and I knew she was planning to leave that very night with Jason. That's when I decided I'd had enough of her lies and manipulation. I sat her down in the living room, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. I laid out every piece of proof I had: screenshots of their texts, bank statements showing the inheritance claim, receipts from the hotel stay, the secret account she'd opened, everything. At first, she played the innocent victim routine, blinking those big, bitchy eyes, trying to act like I was crazy. "You're overreacting," she said, her voice dripping with false concern. "You don't understand what's going on. I'm just stressed and Jason's been there for me, that's all." She tried to brush it off, claiming it was nothing more than sex, like that somehow justified everything. But I wasn't buying her bullshit anymore. When I confronted her with the evidence, her reaction was classic Sarah, defensive, bitchy, and full of lies. "You're spying on me," she spat, her voice rising. "You're just jealous because Jason and I have something real. You're insecure, you always were." Her words stung, but I kept my composure. I wanted her to see that I wasn't going to be manipulated anymore. I told her I knew about her plans to run off with Jason, the inheritance she'd secretly claimed, and how she drained our account to pay for their lavish hotel stay. Her face twisted into a mask of anger and contempt. "You think you're so smart, don't you?" she snapped. "Well, I don't care. I'm leaving and there's nothing you can do about it. That money's mine now, and Jason and I are starting fresh. You're just lucky I don't want to drag this out in court." She looked at me with a mixture of disdain and defiance, like she was already planning her next move. She was trying to shame me, to make me feel guilty, but I refused to let her. I told her that I wasn't going to let her take what wasn't hers, her lies, her deceit, and especially not that inheritance. I explained that I had already contacted a lawyer and was preparing to freeze her accounts and file for a legal separation. I wanted her to understand that I was serious, that I wasn't going to let her manipulate her way out of this. Her bitchy attitude only grew more intense, her voice rising as she spat. "You can't prove anything, you're just a jealous fool. You think you own me, but I'm done with your bullshit." But I knew I had her cornered. I had the evidence and I was ready to use it. That's when she finally snapped, her face contorted into a sneer. "Fine," she hissed. "If you want to play dirty, I'll see you in court. But I'm telling you now, I've got everything covered. That inheritance is mine, and Jason's going to take care of me. You're just too stupid to see it." Her words echoed with bitterness and anger, the words of a woman who'd been caught and refused to admit it. I felt a strange mixture of relief and anger. Relief because I'd finally confronted her, and anger because I knew this wasn't over. She was a bitch, a liar, and a thief, and she was going to regret ever crossing me. I told her I'd be calling the lawyer first thing in the morning, that I'd be filing for divorce and legal action to recover the money she'd stolen. I wanted her to know that her schemes had consequences, and I wasn't going to let her get away with it. That night I sat alone in the dark, thinking about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the lies, the money she'd drained from us, all of it. I knew she was planning to leave, to run off with Jason and that inheritance, but I also knew I had the upper hand now. The evidence was solid and I was determined to see justice done. She'd played her game, but I was about to turn the tables. The next few days would be critical. I had to act fast, get everything in order, and make sure she couldn't manipulate her way out of this. I was done being the fool. I was going to fight for what was rightfully mine, and I was going to make her pay for her betrayal. No more excuses, no more lies. It was time to end this chapter and start fresh, even if that meant cutting her out of my life entirely. Would you like me to continue with the next part? The morning after our explosive confrontation, I called my lawyer first thing. I wanted to get everything in motion, freeze her accounts, start legal proceedings, and secure the inheritance that she'd tried to claim so secretly. I knew she'd try to manipulate the situation, spin her lies, and possibly even try to hide more money or assets. That's why I'd been meticulous in gathering evidence. I handed everything over to my attorney, who promised to act quickly. Meanwhile, Sarah was still acting like she was the victim. She went into full bitch mode, trying to guilt me with her tears and exaggerated stories of how unfair everything was. "You're ruining everything," she said, her voice trembling, but the look in her eyes was cold and calculating. "You're just jealous and insecure. I deserve happiness too, you know." She pretended to be the wronged wife, but I saw right through her. I knew she'd been planning her escape for months, using her inheritance as her ticket out. That day, I started digging into her financial history more deeply. I hired a private investigator to look into her secret accounts and hidden assets. It turned out she opened a separate account under a fake name, funneling some of the inheritance money there, money I could now prove was illegally hidden. I also discovered she'd been talking to a lawyer behind my back, trying to figure out how to shield her assets from me. It was all part of her plan to walk away with everything, leaving me with nothing. I felt a burning anger that I couldn't shake. The betrayal cut deep. I trusted her for so long, and now I saw how manipulative and deceitful she'd been. She lied about her feelings, lied about the inheritance, and drained our savings to pay for her lavish hotel stay with Jason. She'd even gone as far as claiming she needed space, when I knew she was planning to run off with that bastard and take the money. I couldn't believe I'd been so blind. That night, she came home late, smelling of perfume and alcohol. She tried to brush past me like nothing had happened, but I blocked her path. I looked her straight in the eyes and told her I knew everything: the secret accounts, the inheritance, her lies. Her bitchy smirk faded for a moment, replaced by a flicker of panic. She tried to deny it, but I already had the proof. I handed her her phone, the evidence of her secret conversations with Jason, and told her I wasn't going to let her get away with it. Her reaction was classic Sarah, defiant, bitchy, and full of lies. "You're just jealous," she spat, her voice dripping with contempt. "You think I'm cheating, but I'm not. I love you, you're just paranoid." I could see her trying to manipulate me, to make me doubt my own judgment, but I was past that. I knew her game. She was trying to turn everything around, make herself the victim, but I wasn't falling for it. I told her she'd run out of chances, that I was pushing for a divorce and legal action. The next step was clear. I had to get a court order to freeze her assets and prevent her from moving the inheritance out of reach. I also filed for divorce, citing infidelity, financial misconduct, and betrayal. I wanted her to see that I was serious about holding her accountable. She kept insisting she was the victim, that I was crazy for accusing her of everything, but I knew better. I'd seen her lies firsthand. Her bitchy attitude and manipulative ways only confirmed she was trying to escape justice. While all this was happening, I kept feeling a strange mixture of relief and anger. Relief because I'd finally taken control, and anger because she'd hurt me so deeply. I kept asking myself how she could do this, how she could betray me, lie to my face, drain our savings, and plan her escape with Jason. I thought about the inheritance, the money she'd secretly claimed, and how she'd used it to pay for their lavish getaway. It was all so sickening: her greed, her manipulations, her total lack of remorse. As the legal process moved forward, I started to realize that she'd underestimated me at every turn. She thought she could manipulate her way out of this mess, that her bitchy attitude and lies would get her what she wanted, but I had the evidence, and I was determined to see her held accountable. This wasn't just about money, it was about trust, respect, and the fact that she'd broken every single vow we'd made. I wasn't going to let her get away with it, not without paying a price. In the end, I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be more fights, more accusations, and probably more lies, but I was ready for it. I'd learned a hard lesson about trust and betrayal, and I was determined to come out of this stronger. I'd rebuild my life, even if that meant cutting her out completely. Because at the end of the day, I realized that some betrayals are so deep, they can't be forgiven. And I wasn't going to let her destroy what little faith I had left. Would you like me to continue with the next part? The legal process moved faster than I expected, and within a few weeks, I had a court order freezing all of Sarah's accounts, including the secret one she'd opened with the inheritance money. It was a relief to know that she couldn't just run off with everything, at least not yet. But she didn't take it lying down. Oh no, Sarah's reaction was classic. She went full bitch mode, screaming and cursing at everyone involved, calling the lawyer a stupid idiot, and accusing me of trying to ruin her life. She tried every trick in the book to spin her story, saying I was paranoid, accusing me of controlling her, claiming she was the real victim here. She even had the nerve to say she was doing this for us, that she'd been planning to fix everything and that I was just too blind to see it. Yeah, right. That's what she told the judge, but I knew better. I had all the evidence, and I wasn't going to let her manipulate her way out of this. Meanwhile, I kept digging. I hired a private investigator to look into her dealings with Jason and her secret accounts. What I found out was shocking. She'd been funneling money into that fake account for months, claiming it was for emergencies or investment opportunities. But in reality, she'd been squirreling away her inheritance and her savings so she could leave me high and dry. The Pi also uncovered a series of coded messages between her and Jason, discussing the timing of her escape, the inheritance, and how they'd split everything once she got her hands on the money. I couldn't believe how far she'd gone. She drained our joint account, claimed the inheritance without telling me, and planned her getaway while pretending to be the perfect wife. I felt a mixture of anger and disgust. How could she be so manipulative, so selfish? She'd lied about everything, her feelings, her plans, her entire life. And she'd done it all just to run off with Jason and that money. The worst part was her attitude. She refused to admit any fault, refused to take responsibility for what she'd done. Instead, she doubled down, calling me controlling and jealous, trying to paint herself as the victim. But I saw through her bullshit. I knew her game. I knew she'd been planning this for months, maybe even longer. She was the bitch who lied to your face and then turned around to make you look like the villain. One night, she came home late again, obviously drunk and angry. She started yelling at me, calling me paranoid and crazy, accusing me of trying to ruin her life. I just looked at her and said, "You think I'm stupid? I've got everything. The evidence, the accounts, the messages. You're not getting away with this, not this time." Her face twisted in rage and she spat, "You're just a control freak. You're lucky I even stayed this long." That was her way of trying to diminish me, to make me feel guilty. But I didn't. I told her I was done playing her game. I was going to take her to court for everything, her lies, her cheating, her theft. I wanted her to face the consequences of her actions. I wanted her to realize that betrayal isn't just about cheating, it's about breaking trust, stealing, and lying. And I was going to make sure she paid for every bit of it. The inheritance, the accounts, the lies, they all added up. I was going to fight to get every dollar she'd tried to hide, every cent she'd taken unfairly. And I knew that, in the end, she'd regret ever messing with me, because I wasn't going to let her destroy what we had without consequences. I started preparing for the final showdown. I knew she'd try to manipulate her way out of it, but I was ready. I had the evidence, the legal backing, and the resolve to see this through. I was done being the victim. Now I was taking control, and I was going to make sure she understood that betrayal always comes with a price. Would you like me to continue with the final part? The court date finally arrived, and I was prepared for everything. I presented all the evidence, screenshots, bank statements, the secret accounts, the coded messages, everything I had collected over the past few weeks. Sarah showed up with her bitchy smirk, trying to act confident, but I could see the flicker of worry in her eyes. She knew she was cornered, and her carefully crafted lies were crumbling fast. The judge listened carefully as I laid out the case, how Sarah had secretly claimed the inheritance, drained our joint account, planned her escape with Jason, and lied through her teeth every step of the way. I could see her trying to interrupt, to spin her stories, but I held my ground. When it was her turn, she tried to deny everything, claiming I was crazy, controlling, and paranoid, but the evidence was irrefutable. Her attempts at gaslighting only made her look more guilty. In the end, the court ruled in my favor. They ordered her to return the inheritance money 350, and froze her secret accounts. She was also ordered to pay damages for the money she drained from our joint account, and the judge granted a divorce based on infidelity and financial misconduct. Watching her reaction, her bitchy, defiant attitude melt into shock, felt like justice. She thought she could manipulate her way out of this, but the truth had won. After the ruling, I felt a strange sense of relief mixed with emptiness. I'd fought hard for what was rightfully mine, and I'd won, but the betrayal still haunted me. Sarah had broken everything, our trust, our marriage, even the foundation of what I thought was a life built on honesty. Her lies had cost me dearly, and I knew I'd never fully regain the sense of security I once had. Still, I was proud that I stood my ground and didn't let her manipulate me anymore. In the aftermath, Sarah moved out of the house, furious and bitter. She tried to turn Friends and family against me, painting herself as the victim. But I didn't care. I knew what she was: greedy, manipulative, and utterly selfish. I cut ties with most of her friends, especially those who knew the truth and still sided with her. I focused on rebuilding my life, slowly but surely. The experience changed me. I learned that trust is fragile, that some people will betray you no matter how much you love them. I also learned that standing up for yourself, gathering evidence, and fighting for what's right can make all the difference. I won't say I'm completely healed. Betrayal leaves scars, but I am stronger now. I'm wiser, more cautious, and more aware of the warning signs. Looking back, I realize I was lucky. I caught her before she could completely ruin me financially or emotionally. But more than anything, I learned that revenge isn't about petty retribution. It's about justice. About making sure the guilty face the consequences of their actions. Sarah's betrayal was a lesson in trust, greed, and resilience, and I'll carry that lesson with me for the rest of my life. Now, I focus on rebuilding what I lost: trust in myself, faith in others, and a new sense of independence. I don't regret standing up for myself, even if it cost me everything. Sometimes, you have to lose it all to find out who you really are. I hope others in similar situations realize that honesty, evidence, and standing your ground can turn the tide. Because in the end, betrayal only wins if you let it. And I refuse to be a victim anymore.